Hello students, I'm Debalina Hazarika, and in this module I'm going to discuss about the topic data preparation. Contents of today's module are the introduction and the steps and the process of data preparation. Once the data is collected, then it has to process and analyze according to the purpose of the research plan. So for any scientific study, it is necessary to ensure that we have all the relevant data for making comparison and analysis. So the data has to be translated in an appropriate form, and this process is known as data preparation. The steps or the process in data preparation are questionnaire checking, editing, coding, classification, tabulation, graphical representation, data cleaning, statistically adjust the data, and then analyze the data. So let's start with the first step, that is questionnaire checking. This step, that the questionnaire checking, it starts before the collection of data. So the initial step in questionnaire checking involves a check of all questionnaire for completeness and interviewing quality. So once the questionnaire is being checked, then it would be distributed and accordingly the data is collected. Now after the data is collected, the next step is data editing. Editing of data is the process of examining the collected raw data to detect the errors or the omissions and to correct these when possible. So the editing is the review of questionnaire with the objective of increasing accuracy and precision. So it is the process of examining the collected raw data to detect errors and help to identify illegible, incomplete, inconsistent or ambiguous one. Editing is done to ensure that the data are accurate, consistent, uniformly entered and well arranged to facilitate coding and tabulation. Now the editing can be of two types. It could be field editing and central editing. Field editing is a type of editing that relates to abbreviate or illegible written form of gathered data. Such editing is more effective when done on the same day or the very next day after the interview. The investigator must not jump to conclusion while going through the field editing. And in this review of the reporting form by the investigator, he need to go through the respondent's response and then edit the necessary information that is not done properly. Now next is the central editing. The central editing is a type of editing relates to the time when all data collection process has been completed. And here a single or a common editor corrects the errors like entry in a wrong place or entry in a wrong unit or entry recorded in months when it should be recorded in weeks, like that. So as a rule, all the wrong answers should be dropped from the final result. So the editors must keep in view the several points while performing their editing. They should be familiar with the instructions given to the interviewers, or while cross-checking the entry data, the reason they need to find out, and the many such initials or the date of editing, it should be placed properly. So after proper editing is done, the next step is data coding. So coding refers to the process of assigning a number to the participants' responses so that it can be entered into database. In coding, the categories are the participations of a data set of a given variable. The process of identifying and denoting a numeral to the responses given by the respondent is called coding. So it is a procedure of classifying the answers to a question into meaningful categories. And the symbols used to indicate these categories are called codes. Now the coding involves two steps. First, to specify the different categories or the classes into which the responses are to be classified. And secondly, to allocate individual answers to different categories. Now here we have one example where the different coding numbers are given. Like for not applicable it is given 0, for very low it is given 1, for a low it is 2, and gradually it increases to 5. So this is one example how the coding is done in a questionnaire. Now after coding, then comes in the classification. As most research studies result in a large volume of raw data which must be reduced into homogeneous groups if we need to get a meaningful relationship. So it necessitates the classification of data, and it is arranging data in group or classes on the basis of certain properties. It could be the basis of classification can be the geographical area wise, like states, districts, cities, villages, or chronological on the time basis. It could be year, it could be month, it could be week, and so on. On the basis of qualitative aspect, that is on the basis of attributes like education, religion, caste, etc. Or in case of quantitative data in terms of magnitude like income, the sales volume, the height, weight, like this. So this way the data can be classified. So once the classification is done, next comes in the tabulation of data. So the tabulation is an orderly arrangement of data in rows and columns. And when we gather the mass of data, it is necessary for a researcher to arrange this in some kind of logical order. That's why the tabulation is necessary, as tabulation summarizes the raw data and displays the data in the form of some statistical tables. Like here we have one example of the library users. So we can see the faculty wise in the case of girls and in the case of boys, and also we have classified on as the science, commerce, arts faculties. So in this table we can easily get an information about the faculty wise library users. So the tabulation is necessary because it facilitates the process of comparison, it reduces the data, it facilitates the summation of items, and easily we can detect the errors or omissions. And of course, using this table, it provides the basis for statistical computations. So tabulation can be done differently. There could be a one-way tabulation, there could be a cross tabulation, and many more classifications. So after tabulation, the data can also be represented as graphical representation. So it is the visual representation of data. And of course, the graphical representation can be, it is simple and it is self-explanatory. Now the different types of graphical presentations can be through bar diagrams, through pie chart, through histogram, through frequency polygon, through line diagram, can be through the cumulative frequency curve, could be through scatter diagram, through pictograms or map diagrams. So there are various ways through which we can visually present the data in a different graphical form. So after the presentation of data, then comes in the data cleaning. It is about reviews the data for consistencies, because the inconsistency may arise for faulty logic or some informations are out of range, or there could be some extreme values arising in the data. So the data needs to have a proper cleaning process. Next is statistical adjustment of data. And this statistical adjustment applies to data that requires weighting and scale transformations. After this, the next or the final part is the analysis of data. As the data goes through these different processes, this is ready for analysis. So analysis means computation of certain indices or measures along with searching for patterns or relationship that exist among the data groups. And it is the term analysis. It is refers to the computation of certain measures along which we need to analyze it to find out its relationship or the differences in the data. So after analysis, we can come to the conclusion about what the data is giving us the information. So thank you for watching this.